of calamities on this earth. You know, sometimes in life it becomes difficult to fully comprehend when you ain't got a pot to do you know what in. As the old folks say. Yeah, when the cupboards are bad, no food in the cabinets, no job to go through, it becomes difficult to follow after the Lord wholeheartedly because things are becoming unraveled. And maybe some of us cannot relate to that, but you just keep on living. You'll find out how difficult sometimes it can become when we allow things to distract us. But then that leads me to my final point, and I'm almost through. They fail to understand the providence of God through Christ. In other words, they fail to realize that the example that Christ set, the power that they utilized, was for their benefit. I wish I had somebody praying with me. Sometimes in life, we fail to understand that everything that has been provided is for your benefit and for my benefit. And the things that God does not allow you to have is for your benefit because you're not ready to take what you think you ought to have. I wish I had somebody praying with me. You want to get married. You say your biological clock is ticking. But you better hold out and hold on. He might look good. He might smell good. He might appear to be good. But lo and behold, when he gets a hold to you, my. You better hold out. You better stay where you are. If you're doing good by yourself, you better thank God for what you got and hold on to what God has given you. They fail to understand the providence of God through Christ. This is why they did not recognize Jesus for who he was. But the real problem that they had with him, because he talked about dying. He talked about being last in order that others could be first. Oh, he talked about putting himself, making himself a servant and being obedient even to the will of the Father, that he might die for the sins of mankind. Nobody wants a hero who talks about dying. Nobody wants a friend who talks about leaving them. Nobody wants to pay homage to an individual who comes into the city riding on a donkey. Nobody wants to honor anybody who walks around with sinners. Nobody wants to honor anybody who's been seen in the company of prostitutes. Nobody wants to honor anybody who's seen in the low places of town, the wrong sides of the track, hanging out with all the wrong folks. Nobody wants to honor anybody who came down and considered himself, made himself lower than mankind and humankind in order that you and I might have a right to the tree of life. Oh, they had a problem with him. Oh, he was misunderstood. And what we must come to realize that in all of our living, we have to be careful that we understand our purpose, that we understand his purpose. That we come to the realization that the only way that we can get close to him is that we emulate his life. In other words, you and I are going to have to do some things that you thought were beneath you. In other words, you're going to have to go into the hedges. And when you go into the hedges, you're going to run across folk that don't look like you. You're going to run across folk that don't smell good all the time. You're going to encounter some difficult people. You're going to encounter some selfish people. You're going to encounter some ups, and you're going to encounter some downs. But all praise be to God if I understand what Jesus understood. That after a while, and by, I'm just trying to make heaven my home. Do I have a witness? Is anybody trying to make heaven your home? After a while, and by, I might be going through some things right now, but if I hold on, if I hold out a little while longer, I know that everything is going to be all right. Do I have a witness? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I've been up and I've been down. I've been hungry and I've been Somebody said that after a while and by, I don't know how long, but all the old folk used to say that after a while and by, it'll be all right. I'm so glad. I said I'm glad that after a while and by, when I look back over my life and I see what the Lord has done for me. My mother prayed for me. My father prayed for me. When I couldn't get it right, I heard them pray. They said after a while and by, Lord is in your hands. After a while and by, it'll be all right. I pray for understanding. I pray for wisdom. And I pray for guidance. He was misunderstood. And many of us today still don't understand. I'm just of the opinion that church folk don't always understand. We didn't come here to serve each other. We did come to serve each other, but we didn't come to serve ourselves. But we come to serve one another. And if we're going to be about our Father's business, then you should have came with your work clothes on. Y'all hear what I'm saying? I mean, you can serve folk with that pretty hat. It ain't going to hurt anything. You can roll up your sleeves and go to work for the Lord. But the biggest problem that they had is that his purpose, his power, and ultimately God's providence was misunderstood. We have to be careful. When we look at life, is the message clear? Why are you here? Why did you come? You didn't come for me. But you came because the Spirit drew you. You ought to say that anyway. But we have to begin to examine ourselves. Look at who we are and what the Lord has done for us. Who are we? Why are we here? Did we come out of love? Or did we just come because Mama said we had to come? Sometimes that's the case. We have to begin to look. And I implore you not to miss Jesus while you're here. This crowd gathered on the street corners and watched Jesus pass by. And you know how it is when somebody's coming and you think they got something for you. You just waving and you happy. Come on in here. Come on by. Let me end it like this. There was a man who had had death in his family. And this gentleman did not know that at the time I was an insurance agent that he had a paid up policy that he didn't even know about. It was that particular time of the month when his premium was due. I knocked on the door. He said, boy, what do you want? You know ain't nobody got no money on no Monday. I said, well, mister, I didn't come to solicit any money from you. I came to give you a check. Well, come on in. How quick our countenance changes when we feel like somebody has something for us. So it's all about understanding the purpose of Christ, the power of Christ, and ultimately the providence of God through Christ. You'll have fewer headaches. You'll have fewer frustrations when it all makes sense to you. You hear what I'm saying? When you understand